Doll Wars. Vigilus, Defiant. Chapter 3. Imperium Besieged.
To any Imperial forces in range, I am Astropath Primus Helena Arcan of the Lunar Choir of Neovellum, Moon of Vigilus. Status update. Vigilus continues to be under siege. The might of the Imperium is holding the line against our foes, and Death Watch kill teams continue to eliminate threats as they appear. However, forces of the ruinous powers continue to probe for weaknesses in our defense. The Orc and Tyrannid threats have begun to fight one another. We are hoping they will wipe each other out. We are also concerned with energy surges in the Arctic wastes of Kalaxbane and the scattered reports of new Xenos incursions there. We continue to plead for any Imperial reinforcements available. Any new threats could tip the balance against us. Message repeats. To any Imperial forces in range, I am Astropath Primus.
Don't know why we gotta be the ones to slog out here. It should be Dega's rotation. Dega got her leg lopped off by an ice mantis last night. So we're it if we want to keep that drill going and keep getting paid.
Emperor's bony ass, the ice mantises are out of hibernation? Good thing they're nocturnal.
Yeah, all we got to worry about is frostbite, thin ice, and hungry snow claws. Here we are. Drill 487. It's not moving at all. Gonna have to break all that ice off it before it starts moving again. Don't hear the engine going at all. Let's check the control shed for problems and get warmed up. Holy Throne! What is it?
I thought I saw something move by the shed. By the door.
Nothing there now. Probably just a gust of snowdrift playing tricks on you. Now Lego my arm and let's get inside. Come on! Put your back into it. This door's not opening itself.
Can't see a thing in here. Why aren't the lumen globes on? Hang on. Frost, damn it, where is that? Here we go. Huh. Main power was turned off.
Turned off? Like, flip the lever turned off?
Yeah. Who'd do a stupid thing like that? You'd think it was... Mishka, don't move. Don't turn around. There's something in the corner behind you.
Emperor protects, are you serious? Throne, you're serious. What does it look like?
It's like a shimmer or a blur. It's hard to make out because it's partly in shadow. It's like what I saw outside.
What should I do, Eldon? Talk to me.
Okay. Just move towards me and we'll...
Kai Cartier Guela. Shazui, Kai Chaka Gela, I have killed the humans in this freezing place. Shall I resume stealth suit operation and continue patrol, or return?
Return to us, Shazlatu, then. The strange tunnel that brought us to this place has become active again. Our pursuers may have located us, and will require our most accommodating welcome. Tauba, Shazla.
Steady, brothers! We hold the line! Shouted Sergeant Epimeus to his squad. He marched along the trench, proud of how his squad had assumed a perfect firing line, bolt rifles leveled and braced on the lip of the trench. Their cobalt blue Mach 10 armor gleamed despite the muck and debris they'd been fighting in since disembarking from their repulsor. The situation had been grim. The foul Death Guard had been advancing at last, their numbers finally swelled by shambling, risen corpses enough to ensure they could overwhelm the desperate defenders of humanity. Once his squad fell, the flank of the supporting Adeptus Mechanicus forces would be vulnerable, and the entire line of Imperial troops would be rolled up by an unrelenting advance. But now, at last, hope had arisen. The whine of turbine engines was rising in the air as land speeders from one of the First Legion's descendant chapters strafed the abhorrent wave of approaching bodies. Separately, Epimeus' enhanced hearing caught the bass note of powerful bike engines growing and growling louder and louder. "Hold your fire! On my mark, we give those walkers everything we have. Trismegistus, load frag grenades and put down saturation fire. After that first barrage to thin their numbers, we charge. We'll force them back against those heretic Astartes, and while their advance is blocked by the mass of their cannon fodder, the approaching bikes of the Lion's kin will take them from the rear. The Angels are second only to the White Scars in their lightning assaults, so I have no doubt that with nowhere for the Death Guard to retreat to, they will be cut down as the vice tightens around them." They waited. The moaning susurrus of the walking dead was briefly interrupted by the click, click, click of Trismegistus thumbing grenades into the breech of his underslung grenade launcher. Epimeus knew that other sergeants might have to give a reassuring order of hold to keep their soldiers from firing prematurely, but the discipline of his squad was the finest iron. They had fought this type of battle 1,000 times in training sessions awaiting the Primaris call to action, and his squad had utter faith in their sergeant, and he in them. Finally, the moment arrived. A land speeder completed its attack run, and the enemy was regrouping. "Fire!" he yelled, and the intercessors, bolt rifles on burst fire setting, let loose a punishing fusillade of explosive shells into the corpse things. Mass reactive rounds detonated, blowing apart heads and torsos, rending limbs from bodies. The muffled thump of the grenade launcher sounded in a rhythm, sending shards of shrapnel scything through rotted flesh. Where the Marines' attack didn't end their tortured existence, the damage done significantly reduced their combat effectiveness through dismemberment. Another land raider was on approach, and Epimeus finally saw the bike squadron come around the corner of a ruined building. To charge now would crush the shamblers together, packing them in for the land speeder's assault cannon to chew them up, stall the Death Guard, and keep their attention away from the oncoming bikes until it was too late. He grinned. "Now, brothers! For Gilliman! For the Emperor! For McCragg! Charge!" With a vox-amplified roar, the intercessors broke cover and sprinted the short distance separating them from the enemy. They slammed into the foe, rifle butts crushing skulls, combat knives decapitating decayed necks, even armored fists pulling arms from sockets. Epimeus' chainsword buzzed with wrathful anger. The nose of the speeder dipped, cannon barrels beginning to spin. "Mob them up!" he yelled, and the squad shoved with sideways rifles, through enormous shoulder pauldrons, kicked into cadaverous chests, corralling the rotted creatures. The bike engines roared and their boost turbines screamed up through the octaves, blessed machine spirits howling in anticipation. "Now face the vengeance of the Imperium, traitors," thought Epimeus. The assault cannon didn't fire. In the moment's respite given from blocking a clumsily swung pipe, Epimeus looked up and saw the land speeder halt, then lift straight up in a vertical climb before turning and speeding off away from the fight. The scream of the bike turbines halted and descended, and a screech of tires replaced it. Crushing his opponent down with a two-handed swing, he saw the bike squadron finish their rubber-burning turn and fire their turbines once again, this time in the same direction as the speeder. They're leaving. I had heard the rumors of the First's perfidy, but I never thought... His squad was hard-pressed now. The initial shock of the charge had been spent, and the walkers they'd pressed into the Death Guard were packed as tightly as they could go. Without the attack from the rear to ease pressure, the sheer mass of bodies was now pushing back into the intercessors, the unrelenting march of the heretic Astartes, a moving wall sweeping all before it. If they weren't dragged down by the wave of fodder, the hulking champions of the Plague God would finish the destruction with knife and flail and Astartes' muscle. Rage filled the sergeant now, born of betrayal both recent and millennia old. "We are abandoned, brothers, but we will not fail in our duties to humanity. We are the vengeance of the Emperor! Gilliman! Gilliman! Gilliman!" he shouted,
as his chainsword lost another tooth in desiccated flesh.
We have exited the webway, mistress. All present and accounted for. Wonderful. A kiss, be a dear, and scan for those hoofed fish people that stumbled into the webway ahead of us back on Mithras. I want some of those ridiculously large helmets for my Ravager. It desperately needs new waste receptacles. No sign of them, mistress, and no tracks in this snow. They must still be aboard their skimmers. Is the whole planet like this, so drab and cold? No, mistress, only this polar region. There are warmer areas to the south. From pollution levels, it is likely that there are several industrial Mon-K macro settlements in this hemisphere alone. Wonderful. I could use some fresh entertainment. The ones we have left can barely scream anymore. And maybe we'll get lucky and run across those fish people on the way. Have Thade take his venom and the Talos and scout ahead. We will fan out and... What just happened? Mr. Slaith, ion weapon discharge. Thade's venom has been hit and is critically damaged. Enemy battlesuit on the East Ridge. Upstart little beasts. Scramble the Razor Wings and Void Ravens and bring us about. Locate their command cadre and bring me to them. I would like a little chat with their leaders. I'm sure it will be quite enlightening for them, mistress. Fighter Wing is 3 clicks out. Dark Lance is charging. Mistress! Power spike from the webway gate. It's opening again. Oh, what now?
Megiddo Township had known the bustle of industry, the relaxation of market day. Now, after the Orc invasion and the Militarum's shelling, it knew only the peace of abandonment, the serenity of the grave. Watchmaster Zephyr led his Deathwatch brothers to the outskirts of Megiddo at a brisk march, what would be a sprinting charge for regular humans. He held his fist in the air, calling for a halt. The 3 kill teams with him drew up, setting themselves in a defensive perimeter around him, a wall of storm shields ready against any unrevealed foes. Something seemed off about the town, and after over 100 years of service, he had learned to trust his artificially enhanced gut. "Witchwhite," he growled, calling the librarian forward. "Do you sense anything ahead?" "Another of your feelings, I'm guessing?" Yes, there is something. It's either distant or very low level. I advise caution, Lord." "Wonderful. After our ambush of the Tyranids, then getting ambushed by the Orcs, having our apparent safe haven be not so safe is exactly what I need. Captain Nicodemian." The Flesh Terror officer stepped up. "I'd like a forward sweep of the town." The captain nodded, and his helmet vox clicked as he contacted his own brethren. Moments later, 2 squads of scouts and a heavily armored trio of eliminators slipped quietly into the ruined buildings ahead. Zephyr waited for their report, each moment an eternity of anticipation. Around him, his kill teams were unusually restless. They had been fighting almost non-stop since their planetfall 6 days ago, and even the energy reserves of the Adeptus Astartes were beginning to flag. The vox clicked.
Sergeant Leonel, clear.
1 scout squad down.
Sergeant Baratheon, clear.
Eliminators, 1 to go.
Sergeant Veronis, clear.
Zephyr had just started to inhale to move his forces forward in anticipation of the all-clear, when the rattling tempest of autocannon fire ripped through the air.
"We have contact. Heretic Astartes moving in, north by northwest. Infantry, jump troops, and what is firing on us? Dreadnought! We have Dreadnought contact!"
The vox broke into static as a softened whoosh was heard, and the upper floor of a building burst into a fireball, with more missiles slamming home to collapse the middle floor as well. "Sergeant Veronis, respond! Sergeant Veronis!" Nothing. The scouts were gone. Zephyr brought up his tactical overlay and began issuing orders. Ninth Watch, you're in reserve. 12th Watch, support the scouts up the left side. 5th Watch, everybody down! From the shadows of the building ahead, black armored figures with gold eyes on their shoulders stepped forward, each swinging some kind of assault cannon into line. Their helmet emitters rumbled with low, sinister chuckles. They opened fire, warp-infused rounds tearing through the air like demonic bees, filling the air with high-velocity death. Zephyr scrambled to his feet. "Black Legion," he grunted. 5th Watch, move up to... Where is 5th Watch? Their icons had gone blank in his tactical display, and looking to his right, he saw the entire kill team lying in the dirt. The combination of fatigue and sheer volume of fire had ensured that at least one bullet had made it past their storm shields and into armor joints and eyepieces. Once again, Zephyr called upon his centuries of experience killing the enemies of the Imperium and adjusted his orders. "Apothecary to 5th Watch. Forward kill teams deploy teleport homers. Witchwhite, you're with me. 1st Watch, teleport to our position." He lifted his guardian spear towards the shrieking forms of raptors who leaped and soared over the rooftops towards him. "Let's jam some bastards in these traitors."
Hello, Kotek. I was hoping we could talk again. No, keep at your work. I don't want to interrupt you. Kotek, old friend, I'm worried. Things did not go so well on Mithras. I was so certain that if I could just control the rift in the warp there, that I could bind the demon Baphomet. With its power, I could have at least gotten answers to reversing the rubric, if not use it to do the deed myself. But I failed. And now, I don't know. I don't know if my actions are my own, or if I'm just some puppet being pulled around. Was I set up to fail? We harvested a large quantity of blackstone from the Necron tombs. Was that my only real goal? Was the idea of binding the demon a fantasy concocted for me just to get me to steal the stones? Am I now led about by hope? By the casting of my rubric, did I condemn my brothers into a silent, lifeless hell, and myself into a hell of always hoping, always striving, but never to succeed? Am I my own man, or am I owned by our father and his Mercurial patron? Do you remember Ralston 6? The battle at that farm, where the cyborged Ogren had us pinned down, and Sergeant Jacan had us flank around into an open field while the rest of the squad stayed in cover? You said either the old man's precognition works in mysterious ways, and we'll be heroes, or he just plain hates us and wants us to die. That is how I feel now. Either I move towards my own goals, or I'm being sent to my doom a deluded fool. Sounds like the ritual is concluding. I'm glad that we had this time to talk, old friend. I know you won't betray any of my secrets, but if you did, I'd be glad because it meant you could. Did any of it mean anything to you? Ralston 6? Sergeant Jacan? Did it light any spark? Yes? Yes, Kotek?
All is dust.
Yes. Yes, it is, old friend. The portal should be opening any second, and we'll leave this insipid webway branch. Let's see what fresh hell I, or our father, or the Change Lord have brought us to this time, eh? Well, Drukhari and Tau? Unexpected. Kotek? Take your squad and kill them all. I will deal with those fighters. To me, Disk! Ast Tarasak Signuralan Krinawi. Die!
Grenade! A trooper hurled himself onto the stick bomb, covering it with his body and his squad with him after it detonated. But the squad survived. Lieutenant Hargraves lifted his head from the mud and peered over the lip of the trench, his lips pressed into a thin line. The situation was not good. The orcs had pushed their defense line back twice already, and they could not afford a third time as their backs were against Dirkden Hivesprawl's outer wall. This looked like the big charge from the greenskin scum. A good dozen of their troop transports and 3 of their mobile battle fortresses were breaking apart the razor wire lines, bearing down on the terrified troopers sharing his trench. Their artillery had either been destroyed by surprisingly cunning orc saboteurs, or abandoned in a hurried retreat, and they were down to the man-portable heavy weapons each squad carried with them. Barring a miracle, this war would be over for them in a matter of minutes, ended under the crude chopping blades of the greenskins. Hargraves drew himself up and straightened his uniform. "Sergeant Turpin," he called to the company banner-bearer, "strike the colors. Today, we kill these orcs. Tonight, we dine with the Emperor." Turpin unfurled the banner and she raised it high. It snapped defiantly in the wind. Hargraves drew his power sword. "Bloody knives! Today, we live up to our names. 2 volleys, then we fix bayonets, and we kill these scum until they're dead. First rank and heavy weapons, fire!" Las gun and las cannon beams stabbed out. Mortar shells fell, and autocannons chattered. 2 transports blew apart, one flipping end over end, scattering orc troopers into the air. Their battle wagons shrugged off the descending mortar shells and returned fire, humongous cannon barrels spitting death back into the Astra Militarum lines. Dozens of troopers died in a fist of concussive force. "Second rank!" The order died on his lips as one of the battle fortress's front armor crumpled inwards, followed by an engine-shattering detonation that made it grind to a halt. 2 more transport trucks flew into the air from cratering explosions. "What in the name of the Emperor?" A sibilant voice sounded from over his shoulder. "The Emperor protects, Lieutenant." Hargraves turned to find a wiry woman with captain's insignia pinned to her uniform. Behind her, fresh troops in full environment gear dropped into the trenches, and Lehman Russ tanks rolled from hidden tunnels, their battle cannons continuing to lay waste to the approaching orc armor. "He must be feeling very generous today, Captain Laertis, Lieutenant. And yes, the sky resounds with his vengeance this day." Hargraves saluted, then turned back to look at the remaining orc advance. "What are your orders, sir?" "Continue firing. I've deployed some special forces to deal with the vehicles." Hargraves looked on as the ground in front of the greenskin horde broke open. Hidden hatches lifted up, and hulking figures pulled themselves from out of the ground. "Ogrins," breathed the lieutenant. Even at this distance, the sheer humanoid mass distinguished the abhumans. They lifted what looked like clubs and staffs and began charging the vehicles, swinging with such power that the vehicles were stopped dead in their tracks. The largest of them stepped before the remaining battle wagon, staring it down. The enormous engine gunned just as the bizarre club the Ogren carried swept back, and when the blow landed, it was as if the Emperor himself had struck the blow. The monstrous hunk of metal lifted off its back tires for a moment, then it was still. With the transports neutralized, the Ogrins began marching back toward the trenches. Behind them, through the smoke, Hargraves could barely make out what must be assault troops scrambling out of the hidden tunnels to slaughter the remaining dazed orcs. "We of the Vigilant 322nd thank you for your assistance, Captain. Truly, you could not have timed this better." "But of course, Lieutenant. Dirkden is our home too, and truth be told, we have been planning this a long time." Hargraves blinked at this puzzling turn of phrase, but before he could respond, the returning Ogrins emerged into clarity from the smoke. His brow furrowed. There was something off about their proportions, even for the mutant strain of humanity. Their bodies were
just a little too hunched, their heads a little too large, and their arms. "I've never seen a three-armed Ogren before," was his nonplussed comment. "That's because they're not Ogrins," whispered Captain Laertes from just over his shoulder. Her pistol barked once, and Hargraves felt his knees go to jelly. As he fell face forwards, bewildered, Laertes' other troopers opened fire into the bloody knives. Turpin screamed as a knife plunged into the back of her neck, but Hargraves was dead before he hit the ground. Above the three-way battle between Tau, Drukhari, and Thousand Suns forces, upon an icy outcropping and obscured by swirling snow, roosted the warp fiend called Kairos, Fateweaver. Both heads gazed intently at the battle below.
"The Dark Eldari will retreat first, followed by the Dulled Ones and their thrones. Ahriman's forces are too fresh and unbloodied for either to resist. They have been caught in a vice, and not one they enjoy. That Ahriman is here at all is vexing. We did not see it, and the longer future is in flux now. His path has led him inexorably toward this moment. It was always clear he would come. Now it is Ahriman who greets Abaddon upon his arrival, and not us. That moment is a fulcrum upon which Vigilus balances, though we know not how it tilts. Ahriman's doubt will lead him to downfall, and to salvation. But which will this be? We must observe now. Then we must act.
Ave Imperator! Vigilus stands! Her defenders hold!
Xenos are getting stuck in.
Chaos rises!
Vigilus will burn.